Welcome to the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast. My name is Tee Persad. I'm a lawyer, mediator, and business consultant at Private Corporate Counsel, a law firm in Central Florida representing small and medium-sized businesses. Today on the Private Corporate Counsel Podcast, we have the pleasure of talking to Devin Patel. Devin deals with wealth management, has a tremendous amount of experience helping small and medium-sized businesses and the entrepreneurs with the growth and development issues, and specifically dealing with transitional issues and helping them with succession issues and other important issues that entrepreneurs need to consciously think about as they move through their personal life cycle and their professional life cycle and their business life cycle. Devin, welcome. It's great to have you.
Thank you. No, glad to be here. Thank you.
So, Devin, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you have an interesting background. You have an international flavor about you. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how did you end up here?
Yeah, thank you. So I grew up in the UK. So I grew up in a house where my mother actually ran a pharmacy. It was one of those 3-story, business, live in your business type families that we had. And so my mother actually got an offer, sold her business, and we came over to the US. And so my family invested, not at the best time, and right before 9/11 in the hotel industry. And so I kind of grew up in a household that went through a little bit of, not the Great Recession, but a little bit of hurt during those few years where my parents were really trying to retire. And that was their goal coming over here. And then, so I grew up in Celebration, so kind of in the region of Orlando. And I actually grew up playing golf. And so I was very competitive from a young age. I've always been really, really competitive. My sister and I played junior golf. I won state championships actually in the state of Florida with my team. Yeah. And then we actually all played Division I college golf. So I played for University of South Florida, just not too far from here in Tampa. Yeah. And I ended up there after actually having a rough couple years at Mercer University in Georgia. Sure. So that was a kind of a big shifting point for me, actually. I was really big in numbers. I grew up being from the school of Kumon and really understanding how to produce numbers quickly and making sense out of them. And so that was a really big thing for me when I wanted to go into a career, is to be able to integrate that. And I was really excited about the engineering school. And so that was my focus when I went to Mercer University. Ended up playing a lot better golf than maybe they anticipated. So out of the gate, I was one of the top freshmen in the country. So I competed at every event, and I missed a lot of classes that didn't really allow me to make up because it was a small private school. Uh-huh. So they kind of forced me into the business school. And so I figured from there, a pivot, especially when I have a lot of other good things going for me, but my culture is always having education and background is what my parents instilled in me, is why I want to still go to college and not just be a professional golfer. And so I figured, hey, if I'm going to go work for money for the rest of my life, I'm going to go learn everything I can about it. And so that's kind of set me on this path. And I've been really grateful ever since. And so.
Yeah, it's interesting when we think about people's blueprints. You're of Indian descent.
Yes.
And your parents are obviously entrepreneurs. And so when you look at your mom and your dad, your mom certainly had that entrepreneurial spirit. Did your dad have the entrepreneurial spirit as well?
Yes. Now, maybe he was the bigger dreamer. My mom was the more of the realist. So it made for a great couple that, when they were in a good dynamic, they really thrived, but they didn't really know the cycles of the economy here. And that was where they really didn't get the best advice. And, from a lot of angles I've learned, it takes good professionals to really succeed.
Certainly having the right professionals help you minimize, if not avoid, the dump tax.
Yeah.
And so when I'm looking at you and I'm looking at your experience and your trajectory, and I look at the blueprints that your mom and dad had, at least the entrepreneurial blueprint, and they seem to have imprinted some of that blueprint on you.
Oh, yes. It's the school of hard knocks. It's no one's going to get up and do the work for you. You've got to go do that. But at the same time, really a lot of things I've learned from them what not to do, when it comes to trusting or, just letting things kind of fall at will. It's it's one of those things where planning is a big part of being successful, being able to really put the time in up front and make sure these things are very solid. I think I had a mentor who really helped my family in guiding them out of a lot of the mess that they went through. And he always used to say, inspect what you expect. And that's always lived with me.
Inspect what you expect. I like that. I might steal that.
Yeah. So whether it's an investment, or just a family decision, there's always a way to think through that. And so having good tools and mentors and just the space to think through those things can just transform your life and the trajectory that it's going. So I was just really grateful for that experience right out of college, being able to work with an entrepreneur that had that vision. And I was able to transform so many lives, especially, in these transitions you're going through. They're not just because sometimes you wanted to go through that. It's because, they're cutting jobs or, you're forced out of a certain industry. Or divorce. I mean, there's a lot of things that come up in someone's life. So being able to partner with someone as early as we can and get to know them. And those are things I felt my parents were missing until they weren't.
It's interesting how you become the person that you become. You certainly have these experiences as a child, seeing your parents operate businesses, seeing your dad be the dreamer, see your mom being the realist, living in a house that was on top of the business itself, and being involved in the daily experience of the business, seeing the customers coming in, seeing the owners, your parents actually tend to the customers, seeing them deal with vendors, seeing them deal with taxes and government agencies and things like that. You can't avoid it. It's there.
Well, that was the biggest one. If I can jump in, just to kind of put an emphasis there, it was amazing for me. My first year out in the industry, I did well. We were selling insurance, and I was what they called $1 million roundtable producer. So, I made six figures for someone straight out of college. Yes. When you're typically making 20 to 50K in our industry, it wasn't a bad gig. But I went to a relationship, our family and a lot of people I know work with, and it was an H&R Block. And I said, what can I do to save taxes? And the answer I got was get married, have kids, or go buy a house. And these are ways you can save taxes. So I went back to who I've been working with, who's my mentor, and I said, these are what the things I was told. And he said, well, unfortunately, from someone who's gone through each of those things, that is not going to save you money. Mm-hmm. So we kind of went on a path, and even he had what he thought was a good CPA, where we found there's just a lot of holes, right? There now is over 88,000 pages of tax code. So for any individual to know how that can apply to an individual is impossible. And then take that into the complexity of a business, it's even harder. And so that's where I really specialized, working with small businesses and helping them realize just, you're working this hard, you're making all of this money, and the easiest place you can just focus a little bit of time on is taxes. And the thing that, I would say a lot of people, they don't know where to go and how to find a good tax person. It's really is the person getting with you after January 1.
Yeah, well, but before, I'll get to that in a few. But I really want to focus on you more so than I want to focus on these other people. I'm trying to really get the gist of your journey, from where you were to where you are right now. And I see the influence from mom. I see the influence from dad. I see the influence from the business that you saw them grow and develop and eventually sell in order to come to the United States. I see that you started out wanting to be an engineer and then got shuffled into business school. And that may be a good fortune on your part. And who knows, you might have been the next guy to invent something that's extraordinary if you'd stuck with the engineering program. But in the business world, Steve Jobs wasn't an engineer. And so he did okay for himself. Warren Buffett's not an engineer, and he did okay for himself. So I don't know if that's helpful or not helpful, but so you've got this business knowledge that you have just intuitively from your parents, and you're seeing them. You've got the formal business education, and then you go into the workforce, and you're working in industries now, and you got to figure out the nuts and bolts of those industries.
Sure.
How long did it take for you to be at a point where you felt comfortable with the core knowledge of that industry, where you felt that, okay, it's all coming together now?
I'd say it took a little while. I mean, I talk with regularly a friend of mine who's just newer in the industry, and he feels like there's just so much to learn still. And I would agree with him. It took me probably at least somewhere between, 7 to 10 years, almost a decade before.
So you had to put in your 10,000 hours.
Yes, you had to go through just experience, right? I was fortunate though. We were pretty active in the business I was working in, and I probably met over 1,000 people a year. So we were really getting in front of a lot of different situations, scenarios, and you learn almost more from other people than sometimes they learn from you.
Yes.
And so that was a cool way for me to really build my experience. And I can assure, maybe not everyone has that like experience in this industry. They're not exposed to that level of, advanced planning and strategy. And it's
what did you do to deliberately put yourself in a position to be exposed to those things and learn about them?
Yeah, I saw my parents pick up a book off of this gentleman they heard on the radio. My mom heard him say, how you can learn to not lose money to the stock market, and how to not, have to unnecessarily pay taxes.
I can tell you how to not lose money in the stock market. Don't put your money there.
Yeah, that's also a great strategy as well. And but it's definitely one that picked up my mother's attention. She went to my father and said, "You need to learn this. Listen to what he's teaching." And so after they went down that route, and it really did help them in a lot of ways, learning these strategies. So help them sleep at night, pay off debts, and do things within their business they never even dreamt of doing. And so I just took my resume when my parents were doing a review with him, and I said, "I'm just going to ask you, if you'd be willing to let me work with you." And he said, "Yeah, he kind of tore my resume in half and said, let's just go talk." And from there, they say the rest is history. But we partnered, and I really took a lot of, when you talk about engineering, and I was really good at coding and computers and understanding components. I took that into the financial industry. So how we could basically adapt not only technologies, investments, client relationship, all these different things that integrate within the business, but making it just more efficient and bringing it into the 21st century too.
And that's important too, because, a lot of people just don't realize that when you get to a certain point, you didn't get there because you're just doing one thing. You got there because you're taking all of your life education, experience, relationships, indoctrinations, environments, and you're melding it together somehow to improve upon what's there. And that's what I guess we call freshness. Or being creative, and
some people call it being just incredibly nerdy.
Look,
kind of where I grew up.
That's not a bad word, though. By the way, I think we're all nerds. I don't care who you are. You're a nerd about something.
You have to be.
And if you're a jock, you're a nerd about being a damn good baseball player, or a damn good basketball player, or a football player, or whatever the sport may be, because it does take a lot of fine-tuned knowledge about that particular thing to be successful at it. So we're all nerds. So I would wear that with a badge of honor.
I do. Yes. Yeah. It's something everyone in our firm actually kind of enjoys about one another is we're just a group of nerdy individuals who wake up every day, and all we want to do is help people and advise them around their complexities. And not everyone wants to do that or gets enjoyment out of it.
Well, everyone has their own lane, I suppose, and we all have different interests. That's why Gilbert, our guy here who's helping us out today, is doing what he does, because he really enjoys that. I think he's a marketing, techno, video, audio nerd.
Yes,
in the best sense of the word.
Marketing genius.
And we have a guy who does taxes, and in the best sense of the word, he's a tax nerd. Yep. And so I think, like I said, wear it with a badge of honor. I think everyone, if they're real about themselves, they would be lucky enough to be called a nerd in their specific field or chosen occupation. So you go through this experience, and then you get this job, and walk us through that journey in this job to where you were when you started off the job,
and
how you got to the point you are now, or where you are now.
Yeah, so it was a really great opportunity. It was a small firm, one advisor, and he was really trying to grow. He had a lot of success, and he was partnered with a gentleman who really did a lot of his marketing for him. And so I saw, someone who had a great personality, and he could do everything that he was basically paying this other person to do. And so, we basically were able to just take a lot of more things on our own. And I was willing to put in the time and not just work the 9 to 5, maybe get up earlier or stay later, just to time up some of the things we needed around our marketing. But it really allowed us to excel. And in less than 3 months, we really took a lot of things that we were able to automate and accelerate the revenue almost 10 times. And so I went really quickly from an internship position to, hey, I want to integrate you into every facet of our business. And so
you demonstrated your value.
Yeah. So, and I'm one for reverse engineering things. I love to understand why they work, how they work, and take them apart, because everything's different when you break them apart.
Yes.
And so, especially under this hood, it was a great business, and I really just had a passion for the time that we took with clients. And that was a big thing that everybody would say, that, no one's just taking the time and asked these kinds of questions or really gotten to know us. And that's what, I think today, especially with technology, you can really lose. It becomes a little disingenuous. So that was what was a fine line I learned, because at least my generation, a lot of us grew up without cell phones at some point. So being able to sit down and shake someone's hand and have a real relationship with them,
human element,
is a big thing when it comes to actually advising them and being a trusted, what they used to call, before financial advisors were around, right? It was a family advisor. And so that's what we look to do. But it was not easy early on, right? Because you don't have all the resources. So you have a certain amount of resources, and you can only do what you can with those. But what was great was the partnership I had with that firm. They really gave me almost a blank check of resources, and so I was able to do a lot. And
you had to have built up a lot of trust with the owner of the firm in order to do that.
Sure.
And obviously, you did a good job in demonstrating your skills and your knowledge and your abilities, and your dedication and your focus, and all those things that really made you extremely valuable to them. Did there come a time that you decided, hey, I've learned as much as I can here. I've contributed as much as I could. I need to have another opportunity in my personal growth and development phase?
There did. It was really when, I took to really developing our firm and building out a really white glove service. So whether it was taxes or estate planning, whatever the issues were, we were able to really be that go-to for the clients, so that they were, number one, not getting misled or overpaying for just a lot of things they didn't need, or getting things that they didn't know they needed. And so it was great doing that. But once it's just two people doing everything for everyone, and you grow a pretty sizable book, it really becomes difficult from a resource angle, hiring people. And so that was a thing that I knew I was going to continue to butt up against, no matter what level we grew at. I did a lot of research and looking at, companies' growths and sizes, and especially, I was an owner in my book, and I was developing it, and I thought I'd done very successful in that growth, and not losing the touch with my clients. That was the biggest thing. But
to scale up, you're going to lose some of that control.
Well, I was just married, and so I was really struggling with, like you talk about, the family life cycle was not being there for my wife enough. So she has a really difficult field she's in, and not easy hours, and so she needs a really strong partner, someone there.
Remind us again, what does your wife do?
So she's an ER doctor.
So her schedule is very, very difficult.
It's grueling. Yeah, 12-hour shifts, back to back in a row, and they're at just odd hours. Sometimes they don't even schedule them
but
right.
Not only the time, but
So
just the emotional impact of the people that come through the ER on an hourly, if not minute by minute basis.
Well, and it was really big for us because of COVID. So there was a lot of things that weren't really thought out. So everywhere it was different during that period. For someone coming just freshly out in the emergency department, it really did hit her hard with all these things that she just had no control over at some point, no matter how much she wanted and cared for this patient to get the care they need. There's just only so many resources again that they're afforded.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's interesting. So you're coming in with your ambition. You're coming in with the jobs that you have to do that are functional, that are emotional, that are social. You're coming in with the pains and frustrations that you're dealing with the gains that you're looking for. And you're really an ambitious guy. You have aspirations for yourself. Now you have aspirations for your family. Now you have aspirations for the people that you work with and the people and the clients that you serve. And you've got to navigate all of that with your blueprint. And then you fall in love with this wonderful lady who has her own set of jobs and pains and gains and really ambitious in her own right, and have aspirations. And she's dealing with these issues. And then how much different could those blueprints be? And then you had to meld them together.
Well, and then to add in the mix, so we met online actually through a dating app, and she was in Norfolk, Virginia. So I would travel back and forth to see her. So having to really those 9 to 5s and be strict was very difficult to transition to with the partnership and the structure we had.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy for us to go on a vacation somewhere and her see me get up at 5 a.m., on my computer pounding out emails, just because I'm the type of person, even if it's a weekend, the client has a concern. I don't want to let them just sit on that, especially if it's information that you want to
at least meet the client's expectations, but exceed those as well.
Yeah. So I always had that. I'm getting back to them within 24 hours. That was always I would never go.
That's part of your identity.
Yeah, that was what was ingrained by the firm and the person I have to give it to that I worked with. He said, if you're going to work with me, this is just one way I work. And he wouldn't kind of let you go if what he needed to get done wasn't going to get done.
Yeah.
So that's what also made it difficult for us to find, people that were willing to go that depth.
Same work ethic wasn't
it's prevalent. Not there. Yeah. And that's the one thing we used to laugh clients would say is it's just sad that, today in this world we're in, showing up is almost like half the battle.
That's right.
Because we had that touch, whether we sent an email, we would call them right away to make sure they received it or just stay in a touch with them. And that's just,
and we can spend 10 hours talking about that subject. Now getting back to you and your wife and you get together and you're sort of dealing with this and you are moving from one organization now to the next organization. Tell us about that transition while being mindful about your relationship, with your relationship life cycle. And now you have a new baby. Now you have an entirely new family structure and that family life cycle. Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah,
it's been fantastic. I got to say, I'm just a really lucky man to have a partner who I can just be very open with, communicate like these decisions, the concerns, the growing pains, like all the things that were leading up to the decision that I made to transition. She was a part of anyway.
Made the decision more reasonable, more easier.
Exactly. And because we were talking over the years of having a family and, doing the things that we're doing now, it just, we wanted to make sure that, we weren't putting stress in our lives in the wrong places. And so it just, like you said, made it even easier because the right opportunity came. I mean, it wasn't an easy one. To this day, I'm still very close with the firm that I worked with, and I stay in touch with them. Both the sons of the owner now are part of the firm, so they're always in touch, also asking for some help, stuff that I used to handle. But it's just been awesome because, if you, especially the challenge I think a lot of us have, dynamics with husband and wife is the finance piece. Especially from someone who's, arguably on a higher level of education around the finance world than my wife, it did make it a challenge right away. But I learned, hey, this is more of an opportunity to really help educate her. If I can see it that way, it's only going to make our life that much better. Yeah. And so every single decision, no matter the smallest thing we're buying, she's included in the relationship on, just because it's, it just works that way. I've learned is if you're on the same page.
Well, good. So you make this transition, and then your family's on board. Your wife is fantastic, and she's very supporting. You make this big transition, moving from the initial platform that you're on, that you thought was a great opportunity. You learned a lot. You contributed a lot, and then this other opportunity comes up. What was that opportunity, and what did it take for them to convince you that that was the right opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. So it was one of those things that you're just kind of saying, this sounds too good to be true. And every time I told my wife, this is what I learned from the person that was interviewing me, she said that I'd get that in writing, and everything got followed up with. And it took 10 interviews. So it was one of those things. I just was kind of not sure I would continue down that road if they continued to take that long to decide. I mean, it was almost 6 months worth of, going through these rounds. But from the standpoint of realizing if it was if the right decision, I definitely can say that now. Whenever you're going through a change, there's always things that you question that did I not make the right decision, or kind of, hey, maybe I missed some of the things I used to do, that we're that creature of comfort. But pushing myself, and really that's what everyone in this firm has done. They're extremely professional, but extremely sharp. And so they keep me very on point. And so I'm not, like a lot of the things we used to take a couple hours to do and work through with clients, now we're able to really bottom line it and make it much more efficient for clients who are making decisions, especially in the complexities that come up in their lives.
And so you transition over here. Now tell me, what is it that you actually do at your firm? And which customer segment is the customer segment that you focus on? And what is the value that you bring to them?
Yeah, so our firm, Bernstein, we focus on really ultra high net worth individuals. Now, that can vary in just a lot of different ways, right? You've got athletes and entertainers, global families, business owners, entrepreneurs. And so that's one of the things that attracted me, being a global family. My family grew up in Kenya, and then they migrated over to India, then to the UK, and then here. So we have accounts kind of all over the world, and a pretty crazy estate plan that you have to really know different complexities to work with. Mm-hmm. Most of the competitors out there, like the banks, they've kind of pulled out of that international space. So it's really something I valued, was a firm that leaned into that space. And so really helping partner, give advice in those areas with, specialists and attorneys that know a lot of those things as well. And so it's been a really great way for me to add just resources to a lot of the businesses and the people that I've just grown up around. That have helped me. And so it's a lot of, for me, everything is alignment and making sure that, I'm working with a team or individuals that kind of all live and breathe the same way too. Cause like I said, like if I don't get up and get something done, or it's not done before I leave, it's tough. So I'm really excited to have a group of resources, no matter what the complexity is.
And so it was really their work ethic, their systems, their processes, their procedures, their culture that really convince you, in addition to obviously the financial package, to make that leap and say, this is the right spot.
Yeah. And to answer your question, right, like what we do is manage money, right? But that's all we do. So we've, for 57 years, have only managed money on behalf of clients. And so we don't do anything else. We're not a bank. We're not leveraging our balance sheet from the standpoint of like really true unconflicted advice. That's what we do. And when you look at us against Wall Street, we do have the size and the power of those large firms. We manage over $800 billion. Mm-hmm. But the difference is, like in our private wealth division, it's just really geared more to the complexities. We partner actually with attorneys, accountants for the benefit of their clients, and just do a lot of planning work with those different teams. And so we kind of really are geared towards, right now, $20 million or higher. But what's great is, and this is where a lot of the competitors won't do, is they won't go below $1 million, let's say, if they're working with an entrepreneur or a business owner who, they have that spirit. This person is going to, no matter what happens, they're going to find a way. That's what business owners do. And yeah, maybe they only have 200, 500,000 saved today, but they may sell a business 5-10 years from now for 20 million or more. Mm-hmm. Those are the people we can come in and really help them, right, with partnerships and relationships. And so that was what really I liked, was the collaboration and just the ability to not, like a lot of firms, it's they say, oh, well, we're just not going to work with CPAs and accountants. And it's just kind of, I think, closed-minded. Because,
well, that's interesting because a lot of professionals have the theory and the philosophy is you eat what you kill, and you go out there and you get the big clients and you go after them and that's it. But what you're talking about is more of a eat what you harvest mentality. You recognize the potential in an entrepreneur or an athlete or someone who has that potential to be a high income earner, and you initiate that relationship, you foster the relationship, you help build that relationship, and you help them succeed. And when they succeed, obviously, you succeed.
Yeah, and we usually, there's all the different names you're familiar with out there. We're usually one of the few that come in that liquidity when they do actually get that success. And it's an honor, but it's also what we think is a really big privilege. And so with the research that we do, being the large firm and the scale that we are globally, we found, right, investments are really table stakes. Now, I will argue for business owners, no one is more thoughtful from an asset allocation standpoint than our firm. And the reason I think why is because of all the other firms out there, our competitors, most of them are distributors. They're not the actual managers. They're using 5 to 10 different managers in their equity and bond sleeves, and you name it.
They're almost like a broker.
Exactly.
Between,
yeah. So we're the only manager. So if we don't do something, we'll partner with somebody or we'll buy someone who does. And so that's what allows us to not only be thoughtful, but to have insights that we can link to experiences from business owners, clients we've worked with for 50 plus years, right? And all solely doing is giving them advice around their complexities. We can take that knowledge and apply it to each individual.
Well, tell me about the advice for a minute. I know that it's financial advice. I know it is financial investing. What other type of advice do they come to you for? What other types of advice do you give them?
Yeah, it's a lot to do today with families, right? So when you're working with a lot of successful business owners, you end up with multi-generational wealth typically that can last for generations.
So successional planning is a very hot topic.
It's big, and it ties into their values and their really deep core.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously, if I'm the business owner and I have my children or my grandchildren, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, how do I continue my belief system, my values, and how do I instill those upon my children and my grandchildren and even beyond that? How do I imprint my blueprint as far as I can go?
Yeah, and that's right on the note. So we actually help families develop their own family constitutions. And we take the time, we'll actually bring a whole team of professionals. This is all they do for our really sophisticated clients and families, and sits down and really, because to us, we think it's disingenuous to just offer up an allocation without truly understanding the values and the core beliefs of this family.
Yes.
So we've developed tools and cards that even our professional partners, attorneys, accountants now use with their clients to really understand what are their priorities and values, and then aligning the plans that really work around that. Because, sometimes, we may have an idea for this case, what might fit, but if we don't ask the right questions and know 3, 5, 10 years out what they really are planning, or even 15, 20, 25 years, there's a lot of bad advice that could be given.
But that's interesting that you say that, because, most people, when they develop their value proposition, they're looking at the jobs that people have and the pains that they have and the gains that they want, and they're building their value proposition, which are their goods and services, to help them do the job, help them reduce that pain or get them the gain that they want. And the ones that are the good at it, they will even go a little step further and they'll look at your aspirations for yourself and for your circle of influence and help you make progress towards those aspirations. But the ones who really hit it out of the park, they take time to understand the tribes that these people belong to, the culture within the tribes, the belief systems, and the values. And when they look at the cultural aspects, it's not about anything else except respecting them and the tribal things to connect with them. But when they look at the belief system, is about seeing things through their customers' eyes. And when they look at the value, it's about aligning those goods and services with the values that these customers have. And exactly. what I hear you saying is that that's where your firm focuses a lot of the attention, because it's taking it for granted that you understand the jobs, you understand the pains and the gains and the aspirations, and you're helping them do the jobs, minimize the pain, get the gains they want to make progress towards the aspirations. That's a given. Yep. And you expect everyone to do that. And if that's all you're doing, you're not being competitive enough. So you have to focus on this outer ring of connecting with them as tribal members, understanding their culture and understanding their belief system and understanding their values. And that's your differentiator. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, I just got back from a trip where we were referred a deal, very interesting, two brothers that, out of college developed this just $1 billion company. And they, kind of laugh that they tried to do it again. It might be near impossible, just to kind of get as lucky as they did in this specific space. Yeah. But, one of the brothers, he's kind of already on his gear of exactly what the next deal is, what he's doing with this money. The other is just completely frozen, has no concept of what to do, because he doesn't think, again, like he'll ever make this amount of wealth. Yes. So he should just kind of be grateful.
Interesting belief systems, right? Yeah. You have one whose belief system is, wow, there's so much more I can do with this.
Yes.
And the other was like, I better safeguard this because this will never come around again. And so one has an empowering belief system. The other one has a limiting belief systems. They're brothers. So you expect they would have the same blueprint or is very similar, but they don't.
Yeah. No, you're right on. And that's what it's very tough too, because the other brother who's very concerned doesn't know what to do. The other brother's sending him all these deals, trying to kind of rope him over into the same deals that he's getting into.
But his belief system is so core.
Yeah. So we actually just spent, which we're not getting paid for $1 of this work, but just, in the long-term game that we play, we believe we will.
Yes.
Because it's not about picking the right stocks or bonds for him here. It's about doing deep discovery work to truly understand what does the future look like for him through his eyes. And a lot of people just aren't willing to take that time. They have their models. They want to do things a certain way. And that's what really attracted me to this firm is that's our angle is we're not trying to sell anybody products or stick things in their portfolio for any other reason than it's because it really aligned with their at least objective, their goal, their priorities.
Well, that's interesting. You did say, and I agree with you 100% on this. Many people don't have an idea of what their 2.0 is. In fact, many of us don't even know what our 1.0 is. You ask someone concretely, tell me about yourself. Where are you? No, they'll start talking about their job.
Yeah. I love that.
They'll start talking about one or two things. But if you break it down and says, look, tell me about your 1.0. Here are your internal factors. What's your knowledge base? What's your skill base? What relationships do you have? What resources do you have? What tools do you have? If you go down that list, most people will be almost, they won't be able to respond in a way that's responsive enough for you to really understand that because they never thought about that.
Yeah.
Much less look at your 2.0.
Yeah.
It's usually very general, like, I'd like to be a whatever, fill in the blank. Mm-hmm. I'd like to be an actor. I'd like to be I'd be in a movie. I'd like to own a house that's 5,000 square feet. I want to be married. But to look at it holistically and just instead of just those little snapshots is not something that most people think about. It's interesting that your firm and you take the approach of, hey, let me help them understand and identify their 2.0, because that's where you're shooting towards.
Well, that's what the firm did with me. So coming into training, that was the first thing I did with my success coach was kind of take a week to define my Devin 2.0.
Yes.
And they took the time to do that with me and in the way that they would do it with the client. Yeah. So we used the same tools. And I mean, I kind of geeked out. I would take them home to my wife and do them with her. And I learned a lot about things with her that it deepened our relationship. Sure. So, just like a lot of professionals will say, you eat your own cooking or et cetera. Right. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid, I will say. And it's just, yes, in every case I've come up against, the advice we can give is just unparalleled. And it's because I think we just take the time, again, which we said it can be a strategic advantage now as a business, but it is truly because of the experience and the way that our firm approaches things is we're one firm, one voice. So if I approach a client, I'm not required to know it all. I have an entire team behind me that I'm basically the one to bear that and bring that to the clients. So we take like a boardroom approach and can really help any complexity you think of us as a think tank. And we can take that and run with it and model it out to the nth degree and come back with some really key insights and scenarios to show somebody to really make meaning of, what these things are going to be to them, because otherwise it just gets very lost and you can't align, what you're doing with what your beliefs are. So the thing that I love is our framework we developed. We did a whole research piece on, right? There's really two places your money we focus on is, your core and your surplus. Mm-hmm. So the money you need to sustain your life, and then the money you need to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. Yep. Right. So we can really make sure clients know that going in, especially in their trajectory and their plan of when they want to exit.
So you have a definition for prime, your financial prime for your clients.
Exactly.
And your definition of financial prime is that model you just described. And you that is the financial 2.0 for your clients, and you help them get there.
Exactly. Yeah. Everyone has their fancy tool, but I would say to take that and then add the complexities into it with the succession planning, the trust and estates, and how that will all from a tax and risk angle, drizzle down. Mm-hmm. We can do that type of complexity and really make it, again, meaningful for the family in a way that, again, our goal is to make this last for generations. They can go take that and work with anyone because they've got the plan in place.
Yeah. I heard someone say that the difference between a rich person and a wealthy person is pretty clear.
Yeah.
And a rich person is someone who has a lot of money.
Yeah.
And a wealthy person is someone who has a lot of money and doesn't have to spend any of it. Yeah. And their children doesn't have to spend any of it, and their grandchildren doesn't have to spend any of it, and their great-grandchildren doesn't have to spend any of it. They can just live off of the passive income that's coming from it. Which reminds me, my definition of financial prime is similar to that, but I look at it as three buckets. One bucket has to be your monthly expenses bucket. The other bucket has to be your fund bucket, and the other bucket has to be your investment bucket. And if your investment bucket is full enough where the passive income coming from that covers your monthly expenses and your fund bucket, mm-hmm. and still has money to grow and build the fund bucket, the investment bucket.
Exactly.
I think you're in good shape.
No, that's very similar to, so we kind of bucket out almost the exact same thing. Yeah. Because you have to really align, right, like the goals with those different things. And so I love that approach. And there's actually an accounting model now that is pretty cool called Profit First. Yes. That it aligns with that same methodology.
I've read the book. Yeah. Okay. So take what do you say? Take out 20% of the profit from the business, and you put it in an account that you don't have access to without making an effort. Go clear across, of course, with the internet and things like that. Everyone has access to everything, and I don't know if that's good or bad, because you can, you're tempted to do things when you're giving an opportunity. Yeah. So let's transition a little bit more now. We've talked a little bit about your background, fascinating background. Thanks for sharing that. We've talked about your transition from college to work, and how that first job and that first relationship was so pivotal for you to develop the skills that you need, acquire the knowledge, and really get the experience that you need. So you're going through this apprenticeship program, basically, in order to become a master at what you do. And then you have this opportunity to pivot into this larger firm that you're in right now that aligns with your belief system, with your values. It's a tribe that you feel that you can belong to, and you like the culture within the tribe. And it really feeds into your aspirations and help you make progress towards achieving your aspirations, and certainly helps you do your jobs and reduces some of the pains that you have and help you get some of the gains. That's a core issue. What about some trends that you've seen in the industry as it relates to small and medium-sized businesses, or even athletes or entertainers? What are some of the trends that you see in the financial market that they need to pay attention to? I know I hear a lot about winter is here or winter is coming.
Sure. And
so you've got to prepare for winter. What's the data looking like from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of uncertainty, and it goes to say it's kind of been like that now for a little while. And if you think back to the last decade, how much volatility and uncertainty we had, it really didn't seem like it when you look back at what returns the stock market has produced. So one of the things, we're very conservative. We actually just got hit by a couple media outlets on how conservative our outlook is for the market going forward, but pretty similar to Warren Buffett and John Bogle from Vanguard kind of said, don't expect the market to do more than 5% going forward. I think that's what we're seeing too. Is there's just a lot of concern around inflation with where rates are. It's put a lot of pressure on that whole cycle that we're in right now. So that's what's producing a ton of volatility. That it's going to take some time for this to shake out. So we're really low on our expectations when it comes to forecasted growth, especially U.S. and global, just because of all the pressures around inflation, et cetera. But there is a further road ahead. I mean, the market is extremely resilient. Even today, we're up almost 20% for the year. So our core advice is to stay invested, right? Because even just missing 13 days out of a 20-year period, you can miss all the gains. So there's a really big reason to be thoughtful in your allocation, long-term minded, and not make rash decisions and moves. But there's great performance out there in bonds today, and that's one of the things that has been great with the resilience now that it's coming out of the banking sector and the financial sector as much as it looks. Are
you saying that this is a good time to look at your investment dumbbell and rebalance it?
Yes, this is always a great time. I would say, constantly, especially with the run up we've seen, the concerns of future taxation. It's just, you don't want to let these things go to the side and then think back, wow, I actually had such a great opportunity then. So it's worth always sitting down with a professional, talking about on the same page with your accountant and your financial advisor, if you can get them there, to really be thoughtful around those decisions. Because yes, there's, especially for a lot of clients who have had success once they've sold a business, even the charitable side, things you can do before end of year. But yeah, the one big thing we've been seeing today, right, with interest rates shooting up, a lot of people have been hoarding cash.
Yeah.
And so the negative is, especially for business owners that you and I work with, a great rate. I mean, we're one of the highest money markets today, 5.25% on our cash. But after taxes for our clients are walking away in the sub threes.
Yeah.
So something meaningful is actually adding some duration, nothing crazy, but just looking at like municipal bonds is a really big opportunity today. There's been a lot of displacement because that's an inefficient market, right? The U.S. stock market is efficient. Candidly, very efficient. It would be one you would almost want to be more passive on. And then there's certain markets you can really find displacements like the alternative sector. And that's where, kind of like answering your question, it's looking great for the small, middle-sized companies now. Just because the institutional funds have dried up. They're looking for places to deploy capital. They have mandates to deploy them. So a lot of the smaller companies now are really looking attractive. And so it's going to really continue to be, I think, a strong period for businesses who are resilient. They have good planning teams around them. And we're still seeing deals get done, and maybe a little smaller than we saw the previous year, but it's definitely still a good market, and it's going to continue to be.
What do you say to those people who are going, I have an E-Trade account, or I have a MetaTrade account, or
Sure.
Whatever, and what are these guys doing that I can't do myself?
I would say there's quite a bit. It's all, resources. Again, having the insights and the research of, let's say, like from a stock picking standpoint, our U.S. strategic fund, Sri Sangvi is without a doubt probably one of the big top geniuses around stock picking out there. And on an after-tax basis has outperformed the S&P 500 for a long period of time. And, he sits down every single day with different companies, and a number of them, all public, to really get the transparency of what they're seeing. They're talking about, right, these concerns of inflation and the impact. And so I would say there's definitely, even in the S&P and the stock market, ways to take that advice and still do better. But for us, it's our clients that we're working with predominantly. Their concerns aren't, am I going to have enough? We kind of figure that out on the road that they're on, but it's more or less, what am I missing, and what don't I know? What questions should I be asking that maybe no one's ever sat down and asked them?
And that's a good point. And so to the people out there who don't have financial advisors or wealth managers or people who work in your sector, a good question is, what is it that I don't know?
Yeah.
And what am I not seeing? And how can I actually know what I don't know? And is there people who know what I don't know in the sector? And so tell us, how does someone get a hold of you?
So I'm accessible by phone. My cell phone number is 407-873-7456. So I just pick up the phone, speaking with someone directly, whatever their challenges are. Again, we don't charge for all the work we do in advance of working with business owners. So always happy to be an ear, put someone in your network that can be helpful. And then my email is my first name, Devin, DEVIN .Patel, PATEL @Bernstein.com. And if you have a little more you want to put down and send before we chat, that also works too. So.
Well, good. Well, Devin, thank you so much. I appreciate you spending the time. It was fascinating to get to know you a little bit more and understand your journey. What a fascinating journey it has been. And I'm sure there's a lot more to that journey to come. I know that the small and medium-sized businesses that view these podcasts will find the information that you provided extremely valuable, and and hopefully they'll ask those questions themselves, and they go, well, maybe this is a guy who can help me answer those questions. Thanks again.
No, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Private Corporate Counsel Podcast with Devin Patel. We look forward to seeing you at the next time.
Please continue to listen to our podcast to learn more. Contact us at 877-647-7887 or email us at info@pcc.law to learn more about the Private Corporate Counsel program and how we can help you and your business on your journey to success.